Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to your Peer Scholar third phase. All right, this phase is different in a way. The focus is really going to be a different sort of focus. Again, I'm hoping you get a bit of a workout in terms of your critical thinking and your creative thinking and your communication skills. But in this time, it's in the context of learning from feedback. And I want to say a few words about that. And then I think in another video, I'll give you more specific instructions about this particular task. So learning from feedback. If you're a sports fan, I'd like you to think about a team that maybe you like, and are there players on that team that are known as being coachable? What does that mean to be a coachable player? What it means is that you're somebody who continually wants to become a better version of yourself, and therefore you value the input of other people, specifically a coach perhaps, who is watching your behavior and is identifying areas of improvement. If you're the kind of player who can listen to somebody, and I'll get back to why that's tough in just a second, but if you can listen to somebody tell you where your current performance is suboptimal and listen very carefully to their suggestions about how it could be improved. And you don't have to accept everybody's suggestions, obviously, but thinking about them is the key. And if you think about them and if you decide, well, maybe there's something to that, and then you give it a try. And if that coach sees that, the coach sees that, okay, I've told this player they should try X, Y, and Z, and they're trying it, then you are a coachable player. And what that says to the coach is, okay, here's somebody who is in a continual development kind of mindset. And now imagine it's not a coach. Imagine it's a manager at work or something like that. What that manager is now thinking is, this is somebody who can grow into new things. I can give them a position or a challenge that maybe they can't even currently solve, but they'll figure it out and they will grow. They will rise to that challenge because they're willing to kind of figure out what it is they need to learn, what it is they don't currently have that they need, and then to develop that. Okay, so that's really what this phase is all about, is trying to teach you that skill, to be that kind of person. Now, here's the kind of both good and bad of this skill. It's not natural. It's not natural. When somebody criticizes you, I'll use that word that way, when they point out ways in which your performance is suboptimal, it feels like an attack. What happens when someone attacks us? Our amygdala senses threat, kicks in our sympathetic nervous system. What's our sympathetic nervous system want to do? Fight or flee. In fact, the research suggests that 50% of students don't even read the feedback that most professors write. The 50 who do are probably looking for something they can fight. We want you to neither fight nor flee. We want you to sit, think, and learn and grow. That is not natural. Your reflex with feedback is to feel attacked. And so this is why I want to kind of explain why we're doing what we're doing here. In fact, I've just decided I'm not going to do a second video. I'm just going to do everything in this video. You are now going to see the feedback that a number of peers gave to your work. We are going to grade your final product, and each of these peers will be suggesting ways your final product could be better. Again, often when you read these, you're going to feel a sort of negative emotion. You're going to feel like you want to fight what that person says, or you want to ignore what that person says. And so what we're going to ask you to do is answer some questions about what they said. So under each piece of feedback, each peer's feedback, there's a little button you have to press to answer a number of questions about that feedback. And we're doing that to get you to engage with the feedback. One of the questions I am going to ask you will be about the emotions that you felt while reading that. Keep in mind that whatever you say to this feedback goes back to the person that gave the feedback. So you as well, you gave feedback to a bunch of people. You're going to see how they react to your feedback. And that's part of this whole process of learning. Part of learning to react to feedback well is to occasionally be in the position of giving it, because then you have a sense of what it's like to be the giver of feedback and what their mindset, they're trying to help somebody. And if you've been in that role, then you're going to give that person more of a benefit of the doubt when you're receiving feedback from them. You'll say, okay, they want to help me. All of these peers want to help you. Now, they're not all going to give you good advice. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do is to think critically about the feedback that they're giving you. So I'll ask you questions about how useful it is and how actionable it is, for example. And again, this is all to encourage you to think about it deeply, not to do that quick fight or flight, but to actually get in there, think about what's being said, and ultimately decide for yourself whether this person has given you something good, something that'll make your work better. Okay? And again, you're going to do this peer by peer, engaging all this critical thought and stuff as you do. But then after you've assessed all your peers' work, you will see your draft. So you click on that little revise button after you've gone through all the peers. Click on that little revise button. You will see the draft that you submitted in the create phase. And now you have the chance to make it better. So, think about the advice the peers gave, and then think about the good advice, the stuff you thought was good, and then do it. Work it into your piece. Now, this might seem odd to you, by the way. This is something that we want to call a revisionist mindset or a growth mindset. You might often feel like, oh, you were given some task. You had to submit something by the create phase deadline. So you worked really hard, you created it, and it's done. And we sometimes have this feeling that we've submitted work and it's complete. What I want you to kind of think about is almost everything you do in life after university becomes something that's continually in progress. This program you're using, PeerScholar, is something we've created, but what you're using is the current draft of it. We're constantly listening to feedback and we're constantly making it better. That's a revisionist mindset. And so that's what I want you to apply to your own work. I want you to look at your draft again. You've now seen a bunch of peers work, right? You've had this experience in the assess phase of seeing a bunch of different peers work. You've now analyzed that feedback. So now look at that one as your first original draft and now improve it. Take everything you've learned and make that better. And that's what's going to be, a bulk of your grade is the quality of that piece. So take the time, make it better, get a better grade. You got a bunch of people helping you, a bunch of information to help you do that. Okay, once you do that, so you'll revise your work for a final submission, then there will be one more step in the process where it says questions. You'll click on that, and what I'm going to ask you to do is justify the revisions you made, but especially the revisions you didn't make. So peer by peer, say, peer one told me I should do this, and then you either did it, so I did, and here's what I changed, or you didn't. I didn't agree with peer one's advice for the following reason. And tell me why. Show me you thought about it. Show me you thought about it. I thought about it. I didn't agree with it, so I didn't do anything. That's cool. Okay? You don't have to do everything a peer says, but you have to think about it, and you have to show us you thought about it. So go through each of those and tell us how you revised or didn't revise your work in light of the feedback you received. Okay? And that's how we're going to support you through this process of learning from feedback. We're going to really kind of take you by the hand and step you through it. Okay. I think what you will feel is when you look at your revised piece, it will feel better. And I hope when it does feel better, you'll think, you know what? All this work that I did in the PeerScholar activity was worth it. I've now learned how to create a better piece, and that's cool. All right. Excellent. That's your basic task. Now, let me just step outside of that task, and I just want to use this as a learning experience. Almost everything you guys went through here is an example of part of the publication process. So, you know how in the media, all the time now, we have these people who trust science, and we have these people who trust what they read on the internet. What's the difference? Well, the difference is peer review. So every scientist that wants to publish a scientific article submits it to a journal. The editor of that journal sends it out to reviewers, other experts in that field. Those experts do what you did. They critically analyze the work, and they look for ways it could be better. They're also deciding whether they think it should be published at all, right? Do they think it reaches a certain quality level to warrant distributing it to the population. So there's a bar you have to pass for quality, and then they tell you a bunch of ways that you can make it better as well. Occasionally I am asked to review other people's papers too. So sometimes I'm in that reviewer position. But if it's my paper, I just submit the paper, and then, like you in this third phase, I get these reviews. What do I do with these reviews? I do exactly what you're doing. I read through them all, and at first I get angry and think, wow, that reviewer's an idiot. And then I walk away and I read it again. It's like, oh, maybe he's not an idiot. Maybe there's actually some good stuff in here. That's that emotional reaction we sometimes have. And sometimes, you need to let it kind of play out a little bit, and then you can come back and see it with fresh eyes. But then I go through all of the reviews and I write a letter to the editor, which is like your reflection piece, where I tell the editor, what? Reviewer 1 said that I should do the following things. Here are the things I did. Here are the things I didn't do and why I didn't do them. So I have to justify that to the editor. The editor then sees this and decides whether he thinks my revision is now good enough. He or she thinks it's good enough for publication. If they don't think it's good enough, they send it out for review again. And I get more reviews and more changes I have to make before maybe they will publish the paper. This is why when a scientific paper is published, we trust it, because it's been vetted by at least 4 independent eyes, if not more. And all of those people have been looking to make sure that the experiments were done right, that the scholarliness of the article, the theory that it's built on is presented accurately. They're all trying to say, yeah, this is good. This is validly adding to our knowledge base of what's true. And it's this process that you guys just went through that makes science more trustworthy than some dude on the internet. This is the difference. So I just wanted you to experience that too. The Peer Scholar is kind of playing a double role in this course. It is, working on your critical thinking skills. It's doing a triple role, working on your critical thinking skills, exposing you to literature on learning that we're going to use for our next activity. But it's also giving you a real good sense of how science works. The second part of science, after you've done the experiments, after you analyze the data, and now you want to get it out there. This is the process you must go through to make that happen. Okay, cool. Enjoy, learn a lot, really work on that growth idea. Try to tell yourself this phase is all about people trying to help me improve my work. And let me just wring that sponge for all it's worth. Let me see what they're suggesting, and let me get as many of their good suggestions into my final piece as possible, giving me the best possible mark and giving my mind a bit of a workout while I do it. All right, cool. Have fun. I will talk to you soon in some other place. I keep popping up wherever. See you guys. Bye-bye.